All right, well, welcome everybody. So why are we talking about sleep and what authority do I have to give you any information about it? Sleep is the foundation of pretty much everything that we do. If we're not sleeping well, everything else in our lives seems to not go as well either. When we do sleep well, things are a little bit easier. It is the base of the human optimization pyramid and also one of the foundations of Maslow's hierarchy. My background, I have a degree in something called psychobiology, which is the mind-body connection, and I am an integrated nutrition health coach. And I'm also a lifelong bad sleeper, but recently I have improved my sleep greatly, and I'm going to talk to you about kind of the foundation of sleep and what we can do. So our agenda, and actually before we do the agenda, we're going to do just a couple of quick sort of grounding transition exercises to recognize your probably very hectic day today, to being able to just kind of tune in and relax for yourselves a little bit. Then we'll get into the science of sleep, and what we know about sleep has really changed a lot in the last few years. We'll talk about how we can sleep better. Some of the things you can do, and I'll give you a couple little hacks for that as well. And then we'll talk about how to use this in the classroom, which is really encouraging our students to sleep and educating them. If you have any questions, feel free to show those in the chat, and Karen will let me know, and let's get started. So the first thing I want to do is just a quick breathing exercise. And this is a breathing exercise you can actually do at night before you're getting ready to go to bed that can help bring good sleep to you. So just going to have you close your eyes and notice your breathing. Turn all your attention to your natural breathing pattern and feel the air enter and leave your nose or mouth. Take a breath in. Visualize the flow of air as it passes through your mouth, airways, down into your belly, and back out again. Survey your body for any tension. And as you exhale, feel that tension leave that part of your body. Oh, let's see. Sorry, you guys are going to have to see my notes here. That's okay. Visualize your breath reaching your forehead, your neck, your shoulders, your arms, and then releasing the tension as you exhale. If your mind wanders to another worry or thought, let it go and gently redirect your attention back to your breath. And that's it. So I'm trying to, I guess you guys can see the notes, which is fine. I've only got notes on a couple of pages, but I'd rather you be able to see the full screen. So for this one, we're just going to do a quick, what I call empathic energy clearing. So one of the things I find as educators is we tend to be very in tune with other people's feelings. And that's what makes us good educators, is we know how people are thinking and feeling and how to help them. But it can also interfere with our own ability to relax. So I'm going to teach you just a couple of quick things that you can do. This one, the first one, is just to stand up and take your hands and brush off each arm, brush down your torso, and then brush down each leg. And that helps to clear energy off of you. The other thing that I like to do sometimes before I go to bed is I imagine all these cords coming out of the top of my head. And I open up my head, pull all those cords back in, close it up, and that helps to sort of cut me off from everything going on so that I can focus on sleeping better. Okay, let's dive into the science of sleep. So what we know of sleep is it's really a change in brain waves. And that's how we can track what different kinds of sleep that we were in. There's three different types of sleep that we have. The first one is light sleep, and this is called an N1 or an N2 type of sleep. N1 is our transition from being awake to being asleep, and we spend about 5% of our night, and we're only in that sleep when we first start to go to sleep. So it ends up being very short. And that sleep then leads into our deeper light sleep, not to be confused with deep sleep. And we spend about 20% of our night there. And you know, that's not necessarily all at once, that's in different phases throughout the night. N2 is really important because it's our transition to the deep sleep and the REM stages. It in itself is not very restorative, but it just helps us transition in and out of the other two types of sleep. So the next type of sleep is N3, and this is our deep sleep. And this is characterized by delta waves. We spend about 25% of our night, ideally, in deep sleep. We tend to have it more, so think about if we're sleeping 8 hours a night, the bulk of our deep sleep comes in the first 4 hours. This is our restorative sleep. This is the most important sleep that you have. It's also the time of the day when we have our greatest hormone production, which is really important for kids because they need a lot of the human growth hormone when they're growing. This lessens as we age because we don't need that human growth hormone as much. And so think of this as like the little back dress of sleep. Everybody needs it. The last type of sleep is what we call dream sleep, or REM, R-E-M, and that stands for rapid eye movement. And this is characterized by rapid eye movement and a little bit higher heart rate. So when we're dreaming, our heart rate actually goes up. Deep sleep, our heart rate really slows down a lot. So like for me personally, I have an average heart rate of 55 beats per minute per night. And when I'm in deep sleep, I might be down in the 40s. And when I'm in dream sleep or REM, I might be up in the 60s. So this usually starts about 90 minutes into our night of sleep. And we cycle through it as we sleep. So in those first 4 hours, we may just have a little bit of REM sleep, and then that increases as we go. So we get our REM sleep later on in the night. So if you're not getting proper REM sleep, it doesn't necessarily come up as sleepiness, but can affect us in other ways. So for example, new research suggests that it's really important for the regulation of pain control and how we perceive pain in the body. It's also believed that this is important for us turning our short-term memory into long-term memory. And I don't see any questions yet, so let's go on to the next slide. Okay, so this is kind of what a normal night of sleep looks like. So we have, you can see that the stages on the left. We start off, the highest heart rate is awake. REM is below that, again, because that has a higher heart rate associated with it. That N1 is our transition from awake to asleep. N2 is light sleep, and then that N3 is our deep sleep. So a sleep cycle is from about 90 to 120 minutes. So we go through multiple sleep cycles as we're sleeping. So in a first sleep cycle, which you can see there in the light gray, you are stepping down, so going from awake to N1 to N2, and then there's a long period of N3 there down at the bottom, and then we go back up in the next cycle. So there's a tiny bit of REM sleep there right at the end. And so then the next phase starts at about 90 minutes into our sleep. And so you can see that step down again. And you can see a long period of N3 or deep sleep there. and then that step back up, a little bit of REM sleep, a little bit longer than the one before. And now we're into another 90-minute cycle. And this time we have a little bit shorter deep sleep and a longer REM sleep. So they end up being about equal. And then in the last part there, you can see the REM sleep becomes predominant, is increasing, and those pockets of deep sleep really kind of disappear. So that's what they call the sleep architecture. It's how your sleep is designed. And this is ideally what you want it to look like. So these transitions going in and out of sleep are important as well. So if we're going straight from being awake to deep sleep, that's probably a sign of sleep deprivation, and not good for us. We can tend to be very groggy if we have this kind of sleep. And also if we're having sleep where we're going straight from deep sleep to REM sleep, or we're waking up. I mean, how many of us have woken up out of a dream straight to be awake, and you're kind of disoriented and very sleepy. It feels like things are strange. We really need those other stages for us to be able to go in and out of to have proper sleep. So we live in a society that is somewhat sleep deprived at this point. So why is that important? Other than, if you're driving, you don't want to fall asleep on the road. We don't want to fall asleep when we're at our job. But even more important, and this can be important for students, is that we think that sleep deprivation inhibits social interaction. And so yes, there is a way to influence that, and I'm going to talk about that in the how to make your sleep better. So new research shows that people who are sleep deprived may have difficulty reading facial expressions. So somebody may be smiling at us and maybe we think that they're angry. And so we have an inappropriate response to how what we're perceiving. Or people can have a lower threshold for what's called emotional activation. So these are people who might get angry very easily, have a short fuse. If you have a really bad sleep deprivation going on, then I would encourage you to see a sleep specialist, a sleep doctor. One of the first things that they're going to do with you is have you fill out a paper that has the Epworth Sleepiness Scale. So what is your chance of falling asleep in these situations, with 0 being none and 3 being like, anytime I do this, it's going to happen. And that number that they give you is going to determine how bad your sleep might be, and give them some guidance on where to start. So this is lying down to rest when circumstances permit. If you're just talking to someone, if you're falling asleep when you're talking to people, obviously you've got a pretty bad problem. What if you just sit down and read a book, a magazine, newspaper, watch TV? When I was having sleep problems, just watching TV or reading a book was impossible because I would always fall asleep. Sitting quietly in a public place, sitting quietly after lunch, being in a passenger car for an hour without a break used to put me out like a light. Or as a driver of a car parked at a stoplight. Again, if you have that one at all, then you've got some severe sleep issues.
Wendy, we have a question.
Yeah.
And this was from a few slides back, but Christina asks, is there a way to control or influence which type of sleep we are getting? And I know she's referring to the 3 types.
Yeah, so on my next slide here, the next portion of this is how to get your Z's. And we'll talk a little bit about those 3 different types and how to best influence those. So here are the things that we want to think about to help make our sleep better. Limiting what's called LAN, or light at night. So if we're not getting enough melatonin, if our bodies aren't producing enough melatonin, then we're going to spend most of our night in that lighter sleep and not as much deep sleep, and maybe not any REM sleep. So when this is how our bodies are naturally wired, this is evolution. Darkness stimulates the production of melatonin in our bodies, usually from about at least 8 o'clock on. Keeping the lights low in your house, so have things on dimmer switches, or have smaller lights to use rather than all the overhead lights. A sleep hack for this is taking 3 milligrams of melatonin, which is a really low dose, within an hour of bedtime, and that will help you get into that, have that deeper quality sleep. Another thing that can help you get deeper sleep, especially in the first part of the night, is not eating right up until bedtime. So stop eating within 2 to 3 hours of bedtime. Give your body time to digest before you rest, because it's not really good at doing both at the same time. Sleep is a process that takes some work for your body to do. But I have a sleep hack for this, which is eating a spoonful of almond butter or coconut oil right before bed. And I know I just told you not to graze until bedtime, and then I told you to eat something. But the fat that's in those helps to stabilize your blood sugar, because one of the things that can happen is if we eat too close to bedtime, especially if we're eating carbohydrates, is that messes with our blood sugar cycles in our body. So if I'm eating something like right at 8 o'clock and maybe I eat my dessert then, I'm probably going to have a spike in my blood sugar about 4 hours. Well, I have the spike then, but I get an insulin spike later. So I may have a spike that wakes me up at about midnight. And so even if you have that dessert, if you're eating a little bit of that coconut oil or almond butter, it'll help to stabilize that so you don't have those spikes in the middle of the night, and that doesn't wake you up. And that'll help you get more deep sleep. And again, it'll help you get into that REM sleep as well. And then the other thing to do is to limit our alcohol intake. I know personally I have increased my alcohol intake during COVID. I'll just be honest about that. But I really try to limit the amount that I have and not do it right before bed. So, we talk about nightcaps and things as helping us get to sleep. Yes, they can help you get to sleep, but alcohol greatly inhibits the amount of deep sleep that you get and the amount of dream sleep that you have. I don't have a hack for this one. I wouldn't recommend, having drinks earlier in the evening, like around 6 o'clock, maybe have a small glass of wine with your dinner, etc., or having it earlier in the day. A sleep doctor that I followed joked and said, ideally, you'd have it with your breakfast so that it doesn't affect you at all. But obviously, we know that's not possible. So did that help answer the question? There's a multitude of things that you can do, but I only have 30 minutes. So I gave you the big 3 that I have. Okay, so we're going to do a couple of little practices, and these can also help you get to sleep as well. So the United States military, ironically, but not, has done a lot of research on sleep, because they have soldiers that go into places that may be not necessarily ideal for sleep. And I'm thinking back on the National Guard soldiers that were sleeping on the floor of the Capitol building not too long ago. So they've come up with a very scientific way to help people get to sleep quickly. I'll also use this if I wake up in the middle of the night and I do have trouble going back to sleep. We're going to do most of this, but I'm not going to have you do the last part, because if you do that, you might actually fall asleep. Now, if you want to fall asleep, go ahead and do that. And I've included some links to this at the end so that you have this. So the first thing to do is relax your entire face, including like your jaw, especially think around your eyes, and just relaxing your whole face. I obviously can't do that because I'm still talking. Drop your shoulders to release tension and let your hands drop to the side of your body. And then you're going to breathe in deep and exhale to relax your chest. And then think about relaxing your legs, relax your thighs, relax your calves, relax your feet. And then clear your mind for 10 seconds. And you can do this either by imagining a relaxing scene. So I use being on a raft floating on the water with the sunshine on my face, or being wrapped in a super cozy warm black blanket. So if you can, try and think about one of those. And if that doesn't work, then just try saying the word "don't think" over and over for 10 seconds. And then if you do those and you're actually trying to fall asleep, you should fall asleep pretty quickly. Sometimes I've done this for a while now, so my body is kind of expecting it. I don't make it past number 4 frequently. Okay, and then the next one I wanted to share with you, this is a sleep meditation for gratitude. So one of the other links that I've given you is Deepak Chopra has 7 meditations that you can do before sleep that help. So this is the gratitude one, and I guess you can probably see that, but I'm going to read it for you as well. So this is just starting with some deep breaths and then thinking back on your day or weekend. Consider all of the people, the places, activities, and experiences that you feel grateful for. Perhaps there's one person you want to focus on because you feel especially grateful for them. Perhaps there is a train of recent experiences that you can recall and feel almost an immediate flood of thankfulness in your heart. You can do a present moment gratitude also by focusing on things around you that spark gratitude. So here in my room, I'm thankful that I can breathe properly. I'm thankful that I have a roof over my head. I'm thankful that my heart continues to beat thousands and thousands of times a day. I am thankful for a comfortable chair to sit in as I'm doing this for you. I'm thankful for the artwork that I have in here that makes me happy, and the nice scents that I have around me that make me happy as well. I'm grateful for all of you that showed up for this today. That, you know, there's nothing worse than worrying that you're going to do something and nobody shows up. So look for the good things in yourself and your life and free yourself of any negative distractions. So especially, this sounds very simple, but having some happy thoughts and focusing your mind on that before you go to bed will help you have good dreams, which will help you have more rested sleep. So just focus on at least one thing that you can be grateful for. Focus on that. Gratitude is consistently linked with greater happiness. So an evening gratitude meditation can make your dreams just a little bit sweeter. All right, so the last part of this, and I only have one slide for this because this is really maybe more of a discussion. Students and sleep, how do we use this in the classroom? How do we encourage those good habits? So I wanted to start with the amount of sleep that is recommended and focusing specifically on those school age and teen years. So school age children between the ages of 6 and 12, so this is our elementary students, need between 9 and 12 hours per night. So if we think about what time school starts, so let's say school starts at 8 o'clock and people need time to wake up, you really need at least 45 minutes to transition from being asleep to being fully awake and present. So back that up to about 7 o'clock is when they might be getting up. So if they need, 10 hours of sleep per night, they're getting up at 7, that means they need to be in bed by at least 9 o'clock and maybe even more if they're younger. So are we allowing kids and training them that is the amount of sleep they need? They're going to bed at 9 o'clock. We don't just go from go to sleep Our bodies don't work that way. So we need at least another 45 minutes tacked on to that to transition ourselves to sleep. So ideally, elementary age kids should be going to bed at 8:15 at night. So how many of your students actually do that? And I think one of the things that Zoom has done for us and virtual learning, sorry, not just Zoom, but when kids turn in, email us assignments, we are seeing what time they're turning the assignments in. And I think that's giving us a window into when kids are going to sleep. So, you know, if they need to be cutting off their homework and doing other things by 8:15 at night in order to have that transition time to sleep. Teenagers as well. So our high school students need at least 8 to 10 hours per night. So are they able, I have one high school that starts at 7 o'clock in the morning. So that means that those kids need to be up by 6 o'clock. Even if they're just getting 8 hours of sleep per night, then that means they need to be going to bed by 10 o'clock. And I know from listening to teachers talk about what time their students are turning in papers, 12, 1 a.m., that they're not giving themselves the amount of time to sleep that they really need. How do we encourage that? Are we giving them too much homework? So think about after school, kids might go, they do sports, they do other activities, maybe they just get to play. And then they go home, they're doing chores, they eat dinner with their family. When are students doing their homework? Are they able to do it right after school, or are they putting it off until after dinner? And maybe that dinner, then maybe that's a short period of time and that's cutting into their ability to transition to sleep, or they're on their devices. So I know we talk a lot about, you know, blue light and yellow light, and you can put a filter on it, but the reality is that any light coming into your eyes is messing with your melatonin. So even if you have that filter on, if you're using glasses, keeping that level of light as low as possible is what's going to help you be able to have that melatonin kick in naturally and be able to get to sleep. So I've got a few resources for you. There is an amazing book that was written by a doctor by the name of W. Chris Winter. It's called The Sleep Solution: Why Your Sleep is Broken and How to Fix It. I'll just, full disclosure, I have sleep apnea. So I use a CPAP machine. I have undergone cognitive behavioral therapy for the ability to sleep, because one of the things when we're parents is we get so habitualized and ritualized to wake up. We're always listening for our kids, that we sort of build in these really bad habits, which I had done. I had 3 kids, didn't sleep a lot, especially when they were teenagers, and had to basically unlearn those habits. So I did cognitive behavioral therapy, and any sleep doctor can help you with that. But this book is life-changing. It's a very simple, quick read and gives you practical tips and the latest science. So the other one I wanted to share is that 7 types of relaxation. And then the one for the military, that little military practice, is the one at Healthline there.